All right. Awesome. Well, let's get started. We're a couple minutes in. So hope you guys are doing well. Good to see a lot of your faces again on this beautiful Wednesday. So we are going to jump into it. The last couple of weeks, we started the program off talking about self-awareness, and that's pretty much the core of this entire 11-week sessions. And we're gonna tie that self-awareness into every week. And today I think you will see where that fits. We are going to discuss team models. I talk about it a lot. Our business isn't black and white. It's the greatest thing, but it's also the thing we struggle most with our business. Same goes with the team models. There's not a perfect team model. There's not a perfect way to operate your team. There's, not this clear, concise path. So it's really figuring out what's best for you, what fits your strengths, what fits your weaknesses, and aligning your team to go along that path. So we are going to get into the different types of team models. But first, we're going to review from last week. So last week, this was one of my favorite, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about why do agents join team. I call it the core four. There are four things: opportunities, brand, culture, and support. And these are the four things that provide value to agents and team members on your team. So these are my core four focus when I'm looking to grow my team, looking to scale it back, looking to evaluate people, evaluate myself. I'm always looking at where can I provide value in these four areas. And I leaned heavily on brand and then most heavily on culture. I think team culture is the most important core four value here, because that's a long-term play. The better your culture, the better your team's going to be in the long run. And I shared that quote, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I believe that 100%. So, all right, let's dive into it. Examples. Let's go through some examples of team models, right? We've got what they call partnerships, informal teams, the Rainmaker team, which is probably the most popular team, or the team that most agents start out with. Your traditional broker style team, which has become a lot more popular. It really wasn't a thing 10, 15, 20 years ago, but you see a lot of top agents kind of transitioning to this model. So we'll get into that. And then lastly, expansions. Some brokerages other than others focus on this. I've got kind of a unique opinion on this, and I do think the whole expansion model is changing direction, especially at Compass. So we will get into that last. And let me remind you guys, I got the chat open. If you guys have questions, we only have 30 minutes, so I try to jump into those. We'll have time at the end to get into those. But if you want to add any value to the conversation, or just poke fun at me or poke fun at someone, go ahead and throw a chat in there. I always like you guys to be engaged. Well, let's get after it. Partnerships. This is typically where two or more team leaders form a partnership, right? It could be spouses, it could be other family members, or just two strong individual agents joining forces to create a team. The pros on that would be, if you have two really good team leaders wanting to join as a partnership, a lot of times they want to take a little time off their plate. So it does leverage their time, and, it adds credibility and added value. I know with my team, and we're not a partnership, but one of the value adds to a new member coming on my team is that they can market our sales as a team. $100 million in sales as a team looks better on a marketing postcard than someone new by themselves saying they've just sold 3 homes in their career. The cons of partnerships, and I feel very strong about this. Usually it's type A personalities, right? Leaders have disagreements. And I use the comment, too many chiefs, not enough Indians. There's a lot of opinions. So you've got to have clear and concise agreements, systems, processes. And as the partners, you've got to be really, really aligned with each other and really focus on the front end to build this out. Because here's the thing, back to black and white. The business changes, your goals change, what you want to achieve changes, what you don't want to achieve changes. So partnerships are very, very tough on a long-term play in real estate, in my opinion. How many of you guys, anyone out there in the chat, currently in a kind of a partnership or kind of a hybrid version? Was for 15 years. So Ian, why did you get out of it? Just if you want to share, just real quick on the chat. Hey, what's up, Justin? Oh, there you go. Got into the weed industry. Hey, that will change things up, right? All right. The informal team. So this is interesting. I've worked with a team out of Kansas City, or have talked with them that they're super successful. The informal team, basically, it's a bunch of agents. There's usually a lead agent that's kind of the face, but all the referrals, they're giving out referrals from the lead agent or others, and they're all written referral agreements. Agents conduct their own business. They're not really sharing commission with the team leader. It's basically a bunch of agents in the same room with the same name, working under the same name. This is a good test for someone wanting to start a team, but what you've got to be careful about is the liability. If generally with these informal teams, you don't have a lot of guidelines, a lot of rules in place. People are kind of flying by the seat of their pants. So liability becomes a real concern. You also, the management side can sometimes kind of get out of whack. Becky, great question. I kind of said that wrong. Basically, what these lead agents do is just do a referral agreement. So if they get a buyer call and they don't want to deal with it, they just do a referral agreement and get paid on it. The deal's still paid out in the agent who's working the deal's name. They get the credit, all of that. Basically, it's a big referral network. But, the informal teams do work for some people because, again, they do, the team out of KC that I've worked with, they have a brand, and the informal team members can leverage that brand. They can tout those sales numbers and market them as a whole, even though they're all individual agents. So, Bill, what were some of your big pros or cons on the when you were on an informal team? I see you put that there in the chat.
Okay, so the pros were I got leads, I got referrals, and it's a few years ago when I got into the business, so I was working with an established agent, one of the top agents in our market. The cons were the leads and referrals I got were old and stale because He had no process when he got a lead. He didn't want to work with buyers. He wouldn't follow up. And then like a week or two later, he'd send it to me and it was dead. So there was no training. It was very informal. And we got a couple of deals together, but it really didn't benefit me short term or long term. It really wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I think it's a very short-term play. It's good for an agent looking to test the market on hey, do I want to do this team thing? You know, another big thing for me, I always talk about is brand, and with these informal teams, it's really tough to keep that brand aligned, because if you're one of the agents on this team and you are looking to have a certain type of brand or be recognized, you know, in your community a certain way, but you're touting this team name that's really not a team, and you've got someone else on the team doing stuff totally opposite, that really makes it difficult to keep brand on par with everyone else. So thanks for sharing that, Bill. All right, the Rainmaker team. Everyone knows about this. Raise your hand, give me a thumbs up, give me a yes or no. How many people are a part of a Rainmaker team, are the Rainmaker? This is generally how most teams start. This is how I started my team. You know, I shared that story in week 1 about being in New York City, spring break, Aladdin. My daughter said, "You work too damn much." I started a Rainmaker team because literally at that time, I just needed help. You know, fortunately, my phone was ringing, people were calling, but I was starting to miss out on deals. So I needed someone there literally just to hold their hand out, and I could hand them deals. You know, the Rainmaker setup, listing agent is in charge. Listing agent generates the majority of the leads. They can provide structure, coaching, mentoring. And, you know, as a team member, what this does is, especially newer members, it increases productivity. It gets your name out there. It gets some sales under your books. It creates more income for those team members. And then you can tag along the structure, the coaching, and the mentoring above, on top of that. That is great for a new member. Where the Rainmaker system starts to lag is those mid-range agents, right? We talk about it all the time. The minute they start to take success, they don't want everything to be about the Rainmaker. They kind of want to create their own brand. And that's, we'll get into it here in a few minutes, where the kind of the broker style team has transformed over the years. But, you know, in the beginning, like I said, I had the Rainmaker team. It was all about me. My face was on every sign. My name was on every sign. But I knew, again, this isn't right or wrong, but I knew for me and what I was trying to achieve, that was not sustainable. Again, I'm always thinking 10 years down the road. Where do I see myself in 10 years? And 10 years down the road, I didn't want to be doing 90 transactions by myself and having my name on every one of those signs and being involved in every one of those deals. So I knew I had to scale. You know, KW had a great model. I didn't come from KW, but I have a lot of great agent friends that came from there. They had like the Platinum Rainmakers team process. It was all about the team leader, all about the Rainmaker. You only had buyer agents for the most part. Splits were high. The Rainmaker took in a lot of money. Well, that doesn't work anymore, in my opinion, because there's so many options out there for teams. And, you know, unless you are providing the ultimate in value with your core 4, this is tough to sustain, I think, in the way real estate is going. Also tough to build a true team culture, because I think it generally, these types of models are a lot about the team leader. So, and then managing turnover, recruiting, and retaining agents. And I mentioned that right in the very beginning. Newer agents, this is a great model for them to jump on. They've got a mentor, they've got someone they can look up to, but the minute they start tasting success, they're jumping off the door. They're jumping out the door. So just something to think about. Broker style team. All right. This is where the team leader can take more of a CEO role. I think there is a big trend with this style of team. It wasn't very popular years ago, but I think you're seeing a lot of rainmaker teams transition to this style. Myself, this is what type of team I operate. I transitioned from a rainmaker team to a broker style team. You know, I allow my agents to be buyer's agents. I allow them to sell. It's basically the way I explain it. When people ask me, how do you run your team? I say it's basically a brokerage within a brokerage. And Compass allows us to set this up perfect because one, we can leverage Compass. So me as the previous rainmaker has this broker style team. I can leverage Compass and everything they provide to me to help recruit my agents and to pass that down. So I can leverage Compass's brand, their marketing, everything you can think of. Now, under that, I've created my own brand that my team members can also leverage. That's the local knowledge. People in the area know me. They know we're good people. We give back. We work hard. Brand recognition, name recognition. So that's another layer of value that my team members can capitalize on. Not only what I can bring as the Pastana Group, but as the Pastana Group at Compass. So I think that is huge. I'm trying to see what Nathaniel said here. Yeah, well, I've got some thoughts on that. And this, Nathaniel, that comment. But it increases productivity, leveraging time, resources. Generally, it's a high sales amount initially with lower splits. And I know you guys want to talk about splits. I'm not going to get into that today. But what I mean by that is generally the way these are the most successful is your splits have to come down as in what the team leader is taking in. You no longer can take 75% of a deal or 50% of a deal that your team member generated from their own sphere. It just doesn't work. We're going to get into that in a couple of weeks, and we might even cover 2 weeks on it. Last fall, when I did this program, we ended up doing 2 weeks because it was super popular. The cons: time and expense of training new agents, turnover, recruiting, retaining quality of agents, managing larger operations. I mean, that's a brokerage, right? So those are going to be hurdles that you're going to have overcome, but you can eliminate a lot of that with the systems, processes, your brand, your culture that you bring, and the value that you're bringing to your team. And we're going to get into all of those things throughout the next few weeks. In this broker style, depends what the team is offering regarding splits. Yes. So and I'm not going to get into it too much, even though I want to. 4 or 5 years ago, the way I operate my team leaders used to tell me I was an idiot. I was too nice. Now I see teams going to exactly what I'm doing now because I just kind of see the way the business is transitioning, and I do give up more than most, but I don't lose agents. So we'll get into that here in a couple weeks. So lastly, the expansion team. Some brokerages out there, this was a big thing for a while. Some still do it. It's kind of a combination. It can be of a broker style and a rainmaker model. For me, this goes back to self-awareness. 6, 7 years ago, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to open an office in Vegas, in Chicago, and New York. Is it possible? Absolutely. But I go back to self-awareness. It's just not my strength. My strength was on the front end. For this model to work, you have to have a meticulous, solid operation system, a manual, a turnkey system that you can basically hand a book to an operations director or manager in another town, and have them duplicate exactly what you do in your hometown. Again, not black and white. My opinion is this has become more difficult as brand has become more popular in our business. For me, I would sit back, how is someone going to want to work on my team in a city that I don't know much about just because of my brand? You have to build a solid operation. I mean, it's got to be turnkey. If you can do that, and if that's your strength, you have an unlimited growth. I mean, tons of income. You're in multiple markets, and it's going to basically turn you into a referral machine. The big con for me is you've got to find the perfect team manager to manage that. Not knowing the market, figuring out who pays for what in that new market, that's all going to come out in your operations manual. But like I always talk to the individual agents I coach with, no one's going to want it more than you. So finding that team manager that's going to operate to your standards 400 miles from you, it's difficult. It's difficult. Can it happen? Absolutely. Now, on the flip side, because we're at Compass, I see the expansion market kind of pivoting. I know you guys see, on Workplace and all that stuff, the amount, the great thing about Compass is our referral market. We're one brokerage. Now what you're seeing is kind of a hybrid version of this expansion. You're seeing kind of these referral groups pair up and kind of create their own little brand or brokerage within a bunch of teams. The network group, they're called. I know on the California side, my good buddy Butch Hayes, he's a part of that. They're a group of like 10 or 20 top agents. They've created their own brand on the West Coast. They hosted a great party at the retreat this year. They do a ton of referrals. So it's kind of an expansion team without the individual agent or individual team just expanding to one market. They're leveraging each other's brands, their sales, their referral network, and creating one unit. So I find it very fascinating. I have an opinion on that to where I think you're going to see that a lot moving forward, especially at Compass. I don't know if I agree with it or not, but hey, more power to them. So let's move on. All right. So how do you know what model works for you? It starts, again, utilizing self-awareness. One, what do you like to do? And what do you don't like to do in this business? So this is for the people looking to start a team or have a team that are looking to either scale it, grow it, change it up. So you got to figure out what you like to do, what you don't like to do, what you're good at, and what you're not good at. For me, the back end was a nightmare for me. So I knew my team needed to be built first with my weakness. My first hire is going to be my weakness. That's why I brought on an assistant who is now an operations director for my team, because everything I hated to do and sucked at, she was great at. So a lot of these team leaders get busy and they just think they need agents. But you've got to look at it that way. You've got to look at it this way. That's putting a Band-Aid on a large wound. It's gonna help you get through those 5 or 10 deals that you're overwhelmed with short time. But where's the value to that agent other than making a paycheck? Now, don't get me wrong. That's a lot of value to a lot of agents out there, but that's not going to last. So you've got to build your team from within and then add those agents. Collaborate without ego and learn. Don't be afraid to ask questions. When I was building my team, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I asked everyone. I posted up next to Chad Collins at the Coldwell Banker office because he had a big team, and I just watched what he did. I was in his ear every day, and I did exactly what he did. Now, in the end, 10 years later, there's no way in hell I wanted to operate like him, but I learned, right? I became self-aware. You've got to create your value proposition. That goes back to our core four, right? So you want to structure your team around what type of value you are going to provide to your team members. Is that going to be leads? Is that going to be support, mentoring? Is it going to be brand? Is it going to be culture? For me, I've always loved to teach. I've always loved to coach. I've always loved to provide support. So that's a big part of my business and my team. That's a big value add for the agents on my team. And then lastly, the artist versus the operator. This is interesting. You know, there's basically two types of team lead entrepreneurs, or two types of agents out there, let's call it. They're the artist and then the operator. The artist is the high energy person, you know, charismatic. They're emotional with their decisions, very instinctive with their business. They make decisions with their gut. This is the majority of our industry. The operator on the other side, you know, those are the people that work off checklists, systems, processes. Those are in place. Those come first. They believe in data and the numbers, but they struggle with, you know, the soft skills, patience, gratitude, empathy, things like that. Now, here's the thing. The artist doesn't hit maximum value without the operator. They can do this, but then they get on that hamster wheel. The operator can't build a successful team without the artist. So they need each other. So when you're looking to build your team, think about that. Who are your artists? Are you the artist? Are you the operator? And then, so for me, I was the artist, optimistic, high energy. You know, you give me an idea. Oh yeah, let's do it. We'll go do it. And then I go, oh, how are we going to figure this out? You know, I needed that operator. So that was my first hire. Could someone reiterate the core four? So Jeremy, that is going to be opportunities, support, brand, and culture. And you can shoot me a message offline, and also the slides from 2 weeks ago are in your vault on the Chirag Shah platform. The slides are in the video, so you can go pull those as well. So that kind of wraps up this week on the team models. We've got a minute or two, but I can hang around for a couple minutes. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat, or just you can come on and speak. Here in 2 weeks, we're going to go into who is your first hire. So I kind of ended it transitioning into who do we hire first? And we're going to go through that. I'm going to share some stories from my failures, some of my good hires, some of my bad hires. So Jeremy, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? Thank you for this. It's been very helpful. I think the artist and the operator part is really, you know, what I really like about that is the way you presented it is they are equal, and it takes both to, you know, there's no kind of judgment that one's better than the other, and it takes, you know, both halves. I guess my question is, I'm meeting actually with somebody tonight, and who reached out to me, which I thought was really great and kind of a feather in my cap. And I know that he's coming from another team. So do you have any advice on how I might go into this conversation or structure this conversation so that I really remember to listen and to ask open-ended questions and really get a sense from him what he's looking for, as opposed to me going on and on and on about, you know, what I'm doing, and because I really want to avoid that.
So you said it best. You've got to ask questions. Now, that's easier said than done. So go back to that core four: opportunities, brand, culture, and support. Figure out what value you currently have with those and can provide. You know, generally, a team leader wants to have all four perfect. They don't. So there's probably one or two that you're really good at, or current team members are really, really value to be on your team. So figure those out. And then you ask the questions of why why he's wanting to change teams, why your team, you know, drew his eye, drew his direction. And then based off his answers, you can plug in your core 4 values to see if he's a good fit. You know, because if you're all about providing support and coaching and mentoring, and he or she goes, you know, I can't stand coaching or mentoring. I just want to be on an island and do my own thing, but I just want to work on your brand because your brand is cool. Maybe he's not a good fit. So
Right.
yeah, that's where I would start. But think of those 4 or 5 questions. That way he's going to feel engaged, and he or she is going to feel important.
Okay. That sounds good. And just one other quick one is, you know, I was on a team, basically like a brokerage model, and kind of a hybrid brokerage expansion model. And I was one of those people who got to a point quickly, and I bailed. I want to avoid that in anybody who comes onto my team.
Yep.
So do you think that it's a matter of getting to those core, you know, because I don't want to outright say that, you know, that I'm concerned, that I have that fear to somebody potentially coming on. How do you get a sense of whether somebody is in it kind of for the long term, or if they're just looking to get their footing? Like, is there a way to get at that, or you just hope for the best?
Ask them where and this is kind of cliche, but this works. Ask them where they see themselves in the business in 5 years. Because if they say, well, I want to be on the Bahamas, and, you know, I'm going to go work for EXP and build this pyramid scheme eventually and make all this money off other people, like, he's not going to be in it for the long haul. Right. But you know, if he's like, hey, I want to build a brand and really focus on building my market out in my neighborhood, and I've got a family that I need to support, and I'm looking for that support, then you know, people are going to change. They're going to, you can't have a definite read on them, but that will help.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome, guys. Well, hey, as always, I appreciate you for being here. That means a lot. I'm glad I can share this stuff with you. Look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. And if you need anything, any other slides, they're always on the CSC platform. And you can always just reach out to me if you have any quick questions or anything. All right. Have a good one, guys.